There are some people who will burn down the entire village just so that they can rule over the ashes. That's sometimes the mindset that you're dealing with. They don't care if everything's ruined. Sometimes they will just burn down the whole village just so that no one else gets it. They can't have it, no one else is going to have it. Again, sometimes it's that scorched earth kind of policy. And sometimes they just do it because they get a kick out of it. Narcissistic psychopaths take over people, they take over little groups, they take over workplaces, they take over organizations, they will take over forums and things on social media. Ultimately, it's all about power and control. You see this everywhere. But they come across as good people. They're always the good guy. They can be very charming, very supportive. But in reality, these people, some of them are fine with just burning everything down. Sometimes these people, it's like they live in a different reality and they're not really open to anything which challenges their worldview. So they're always on the attack. They can put a lot of effort into coercing people. They operate primarily through their id. They hijack other people's superegos. Now, what I mean by that is the id, we all have it, according to Freud. It's our primitive, instinctual kind of drive. It's our pleasure principle, our instant gratification. There can be aggression and there's always self-interest. And in dark personality types, it's often without regard for reality, morality, other people's safety, their rights. The other side of that, we have our superego. Now, sometimes this would be referred to as maybe our conscience. This enforces guilt, ideals, gets us to conform to things like societal norms. It's also a restraint for the id. And it's not that one's good and one's bad. We kind of need them both. So if you think of maybe a narcissistic psychopath, they, a lot of the time, are operating primarily through their id. So they can be impulsive, hedonistic, they're very exploitative. There's a deficit with their superego, which means they have little to no guilt. There's no remorse, no moral restraint. It's like the end justifies the means to them. So they often work unchecked. They can be very aggressive. They have no problem with lying. They can be very callous because everything is all about them. Other times you will meet those who have a pretty good impulse control. So they can think long term. They can think strategically, getting more in the realms of Machiavellianism here. And what they do is they will get other people who maybe do have a healthy sense of self, they do have a healthy superego, but they hijack that superego, lead them to believe that things like saying no or not giving them what they want or calling them out for their behavior, that that's a bad thing. This person is their moral compass. They've hijacked their moral compass as well. So how do they take over little groups? How do they take over people in relationships? How do they take over businesses and organizations? Those dark personality types run things and take over things and ruin things by creating friction. Friction among outer groups, friction within the people who are in the group, creating problems. It might begin by just spreading rumors, and it could be rumors of corruption, incompetence, unfair treatment. But really what they're trying to do is they're trying to create friction. They create friction and dissatisfaction among other people in that workplace or that organization or even within that little family group. And they use things like emotive arguments, exaggerated concerns, not necessarily factual arguments, but they do this to rally support. And while they're doing it, they're not always presenting themselves as maybe the hurt party, but more as a protector. They know what's best. They create an argument, they find an argument, they will exaggerate an argument, but put themselves forward as the person who can resolve it. They can do this in a way that undermines the leadership. Another way they will do that is by highlighting or exaggerating or even creating problems. But they can be very good at being the person who offers the solution, the person who can help because they have the answers.